relief. That's the nothing personal word of the day. It is Thursday, March 12th, 2026. And if you think that Team USA has any other emotion other than absolute and complete, higher than Rolaids level relief, then you were not paying attention to what was going on during the day yesterday in the halls of Major League Baseball, in the clubhouse of Team USA, in the front office of Team USA, as they sat during the day wondering, how do we get through this mess that we find ourselves in? Not just not controlling their own destiny. That would be enough. But the absolute PR nightmare that existed following Team USA's loss to Italy the other night, what ensued with manager Mark DeRosa, what ensued with the viral nature of the entire day of Mark DeRosa saying we clinched, but then I made a mistake, we didn't clinch, and then the scenarios which are enough to make a rock nervous. I've seen how the tie-breaking scenarios are done in Major League Baseball for playoff teams and seedings and regular season, and there's a whole lot of talk that goes on in committee meetings about how you deal with tying scenarios. There's always different levels because it's like AI says, well, wait a minute, what if this happens? What if they're tied after this? We have to go deeper because the final tiebreaker is always the same. The flip of a coin. But you got to really spend a lot of time getting there. And so yesterday was basically spent doing exactly what the commissioner's office did not want to have happen as the World Baseball Classic was entering the knockout round. Did not want the center of discussion to be Mark DeRosa, and we'll talk about that in a second. Did not want Team USA to not have clinched and therefore have to be discussing scenarios where they were not even a part of. Fox did not want to move Italy, Mexico to FS1 off Tubi and switch Dominican to Venezuela in front of a sold-out Marlins Park crowd from FS1 to Tubi. None of that was in the plan. So during the course of yesterday, I was able to discern through various phone calls and things that I was thinking about what exactly went on with Mark DeRosa, why it went on, and what it meant to the people impacted by it. And while you heard plenty of people yesterday, and thank you to Adnan and Jeremy and Coca, and I'll do it again, second hour with Coca, but thank you for the show yesterday. But when you are discussing all of this from a media standpoint, there was a big void in information because all Mark DeRosa came out and said is, hey, I thought we had clinched, I misspoke, my bad. But that doesn't explain why Mark DeRosa talked about the lineup against Italy and how Bryce Harper was benched and how Cal Raleigh was benched and the reason they were benched, which would have been really easy to mention. That A, they weren't hitting, but B, when you put players on your roster for major league teams, you have a deal in place with those teams that players will get a certain number of at-bats. When they are backup players, they are told you're not going to play every day. Come, let your player come to the WBC. It'll be a great experience. We'll obviously do BP and infield and outfield and warm-ups, but game at-bats, there's going to be fewer. He's going to be a pinch hitter with one start during the tournament. He's going to be a pinch hitter 3 times with 2 starts. Or he's going to start 5 times, no pinch hitting. Or he's going to pitch twice with no more than 1 inning each time. Remember, it's all set up in advance. So for those of you complaining or upset the way the broadcasters were and the way the media was, cannot believe Clayton Kershaw was warming up, that shows that Mark DeRosa thought that they'd already clinched. It shows that it doesn't matter that they didn't care about winning that game because they had Clayton Kershaw warming up in the bullpen. Wrong. Clayton Kershaw was told before the game what his role would be. In a blowout scenario, either way, winning or losing, you are coming in at the end of the game, so start warming up in time to be ready. He's not a reliever who takes 3 minutes to warm up. He's an old man starter. You don't just get into the game. There are myriad times during the regular season where you are warming up somebody in the bullpen who doesn't make it into the game because they were warmed up for a particular reason that doesn't come to pass. But if you're paying attention as a pitching coach and a manager, you have that player up getting hot until you know whether or not what happened. Will there be a blowout? Will someone get that big hit to extend the lead by an extra 3 runs, 4 runs, et cetera, et cetera? So I understand the concept of confirmation bias because you all do it, and I'm fine with it. But man, sitting Raleigh and sitting Harper and warming up Kershaw, that wasn't confirmation that DeRosa was not trying to win the game, because I can tell you what went on pregame. There was an absolute need to win the game. And side note, if you think that Mark DeRosa had a conversation with anyone in Team USA where it even came up once that by beating Mexico they had clinched and the game against Italy didn't matter, then you're just wrong. When you meet with your manager, you are talking about the next game. If it's not a clinching game, it doesn't even come up. By the way, this is not a clinching game. It's understood that if we're not celebrating in a clubhouse after a game, then the next day means something. It's really a very simple math equation. You don't need tiebreaker understanding. You don't need rules understanding. You can have a general goggles, champagne, congratulatory understanding. Context clues, folks. When you don't see that happening, when there's no handshake from the GM and a hug saying we did it, we're moving on, let's start meeting immediately about what we're doing in the quarterfinal, semifinal game, which we've already talked about, but let's go through it again. If you don't have those meetings after a game, guess what? You didn't clinch. Would it have been better for Mark DeRosa not to say that they'd punched their ticket? Obviously. Would it have been better of Mark DeRosa not to say we wanted to get guys off their feet? They were dragging because we were there late? Man, did I laugh about that. I don't know if you know this, but after games, what players do is they get on the team bus, they go back to the hotel, and they go night-night. Would you give me a small break? Having players in a clubhouse till 12:30, 1 o'clock, that's like what they do to unwind and then go to dinner or go to a club, check out Magic City. Whatever it is they're going to do, they're not done doing it. Even the next day's starting pitcher, by the way, they're not done doing it at 1 a.m. after a night game. So that narrative, completely incorrect. But why even say that if you're Mark DeRosa? He basically suffered from a Joe versus the volcano brain cloud. That's the only explanation I can come up with of why he said the things to the media he said. And everyone knew that it was walk back city the following day. So there were all these tie-breaking scenarios yesterday. Everyone's talking through it. And I like knowing what I'm rooting for. Just tell me. And it was simple for me last night. When Italy gets to 4 runs, that's it. It's over. When Italy got its 4th and 5th run with a bases... with a 2-out or a 2-run scoring single, that was it. It was like the 5th inning, 4th inning. I can't remember the inning. The USA made it through the quarters. Of course, I then went on Twitter and realized that I had it a little wrong, is that if the game had gone 69 innings and somehow Mexico won the game 68-66 in 49 innings, there was another scenario where the USA would be eliminated, but I felt pretty good about the chances. Premature celebrating? Maybe. As bad as what DeRosa did? Definitely not. So this World Baseball Classic is heading into the knockout round. We got the quarterfinal matchup set. There was one more pool play game yesterday at Marlins Park, and I'm going to take a small, Coca, like 20-second victory lap. Obviously, when you see Marlins Park sold out with the type of energy it had for the Dominican-Venezuela game, I have been a part of games with the Dominican and Venezuela in the World Baseball Classic. It just lands differently. We try to recreate it for the regular season. You simply can't. There is no way to do it. When the Marlins are back, you're going to see them playing in front of whether it's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25,000 fans. It won't matter. The atmosphere cannot be replicated. Front offices from around the globe try to replicate World Cup and replicate World Baseball Classic. NGTH. It's not going to happen. But boy, was it fun to watch yesterday. If you're looking for a quarterfinal matchup that is interesting, Japan-Venezuela. Venezuela with Miguel Cabrera, not active but still dressing, which is cool. That's a big game because knockout round, one of them is eliminated. Japan or Venezuela will not make it to the semis. It's hard to imagine a scenario where USA-Japan is not the final game, because that would be a rematch from 2023 that really answers to all of the issues that the broadcasters want, that WBC wants. There is a high incentive to have USA-Japan. We'll see if it actually happens, but if so, that would be lined up for a Monday, March 17th final, so it's coming in the next 5 days. I want to address another thing here, Coca, that I didn't get to do yesterday, and I thank you for addressing it, or at least mentioning it, which I think you did. Cal Raleigh, the catcher of the U.S. team, and his teammate Randy Arozarena, the whole handshaking situation, I want to just put an end to something. Randy and Cal are fine. Randy and Cal, as Mariner teammates, are fine. Randy and Cal, as foes in the World Baseball Classic, are foes in the World Baseball Classic. That's it. It is not a personal diss against Randy. He didn't take it that way, no matter what he said in an interview. It is not Cal Raleigh singling out his teammate as some sort of statement about his view of his teammate on the Mariners. Not even close. Before a game starts, there are conversations that are had. Cal Raleigh did not say that I'm going to greet every player on Mexico, on Italy. I'm going to greet them with love, with kisses, except Randy. He didn't say that. It was the same for all the players. So again, what we do on this side of the business is we're trying to create content. We're trying to entertain you. We are trying to figure out a way that every day or 3 days a week, we figure out what do we do that you'll come to us, that you will tell your friends, that you'll stick by us. Wouldn't it be amazing to have hyperbole rule the day? Wouldn't it be amazing to have people who don't even have a passion about a topic to talk about that topic just in order to get your swipes, likes, clicks, reviews, subscriptions, etc.? No, I'm not going to do that here at Nothing Personal. Just not going to do it. Maybe to the chagrin of a bonus for Coca, but I'm just not going to do it. There is nothing to see with the Cal Randy situation. Nothing. There is something to see for me on Tarik Skubal and him choosing not to pitch for Team USA anymore. I'm not going to do it as a wait to see, Coca, but boy, do I want to. I had to wait to see that Skubal will pitch for Team USA again. Obviously, I got that wrong. DavidSamsonPodcast.com. We will revisit our wait to sees. They're all in a document on that website. Go to DavidSamsonPodcast.com. If you end up wearing a sweatshirt, great. A t-shirt, pair of shorts, nothing personal, great. Thank you. If you just go through the doc because you want to learn about picks and wait to sees and make sure that we've got total credibility that we revisit, I encourage you to do that. But yeah, I thought Skubal would pitch again. And then I realized the folly of my wait to see because I did not give enough thought to Scott Boras, which is unreal. It just shows that he's not actually that pervasive in my brain, just when he talks. But his behind-the-scenes Machiavellian ridiculousness convincing Skubal, hey, man, you got almost $500 million we're going to get you. Don't you screw that up. I need that commission to continue operating my academy and my company. I will not allow it. And of course, Skubal is going to listen to Boras when Boras says, this is great to have the uniform on the front of your jersey. I loved your emotion. I loved your patriotism. I love the fact that you mentioned publicly that you're torn. You don't know what to do. I would have enjoyed you not to have said that, however, but your bread is buttered in Detroit, period. It'd be nice to win the World Baseball Classic gold medal, but you've got to stay on your schedule because we are not risking any injury whatsoever, period. So they workshopped a quote for Skubal to say, and I liked it, mostly because it happens to be true. He said, my spring training start days were scripted out in January, with the original plan being starting and then being done. Obviously, when I got here, my emotions kind of changed a little bit. My thought process changed a little bit, and I tried to make it work, but just couldn't. And I hate it, but it's all right. Remember, I've talked to you about the fact that the pitching situation, even in the WBC, is totally scripted, and that spring training is totally scripted in advance of which pitchers are pitching when, how often, how much they're going to pitch, how many innings, how many back-to-backs, how many pitches are allowed in an inning before you sit that player down. All of those things are done before players report. Are there changes? Of course, based on injury, not based on lack of performance. So Tarik Skubal's plan with the Tigers that was approved by the Tigers was one and done. Side note, if I were the president of the Tigers, don't tell anyone this, but I'd be a hard no on Skubal pitching again in the World Baseball Classic. I want him available for me exactly as I want him. I want him exactly executing the plan that we made with thought, care, and approval from USA, Skubal, Boras, Tigers. There was approval around and across the board. The other thing is about panicking about performances during spring training. I'd rather you not. If you're going to box score surf during spring training, just do yourself a favor and have next to you an entire shaker of salt. Please. And every time you read something that you're like, oh, I'm bummed out or my guy stinks, take out the grain of salt one at a time because you've got to take spring training with a grain of salt. That theory leads me to tell you that are the Marlins worried that Sandy Alcantara got shelled by Venezuela? Is the definition of getting shelled an ERA of 9? For Sandy, it certainly is. Yes, he pitched 3 innings, gave up 3 earned runs and 5 hits. Yes, it's true that the last 2 times he's pitched in the World Baseball Classic against Venezuela, he's had a very similar stat line. The correlation between World Baseball Classic, spring training, stat line, and the evaluation of the player and the expectation of the regular season stat line. Not related at all. You think Peter Bendix called up Miggy? Did he call up Manny, Albert? Who would he talk to? My guess is that he'd probably go through Pujols. Do you think that somehow Peter Benedict said, oh, there's something wrong with Sandy, do not pitch him again, this is terrible? No, that call simply doesn't happen that way at all. Well, I'll be watching the World Baseball Classic tomorrow night. Friday, you've got USA, Canada. You've got Dominican versus Korea at Marlins Park. Saturday, you've got Italy, Puerto Rico. What a game, because Italy has just been raking. Sorry, one more side note. Go look at the Italy roster. This isn't the roster that was put together of electricians and pasta-eating people at the Olive Garden. There are big leaguers on this team, and big leaguers can win any game. They're not going to win every game, though Italy did. It's highly doubtful they'll run the table. But each individual game, major leaguers can beat major leaguers. This segment is presented by MoneyLion. Download the MoneyLion app or visit MoneyLion.com to learn more. MoneyLion. Make money easy. I'm doing my Snoopy dance here. You can't see me wiggle my tail, but I'm doing it. The NFL is doing it because they don't have to deal with Steve Tisch and the Epstein Files in this regard. Yay. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Let me tell you what happened here. Do you remember Steve Tisch, co-owner of the New York Football Giants? Remember when the Epstein Files came out and Steve Tisch was in conversation directly with Jeffrey Epstein? And remember there was some back and forth on quality of women? Do you remember when Roger Goodell said, yeah, we're aware of it, but, just heard about it. We'll figure out. We'll see if we can learn more. Figure out if we need to start an investigation. Maybe Wachtell Lipton is available once they're done with the Clippers investigation. But Roger Goodell never started an investigation into Steve Tisch. But we told you on Nothing Personal that Steve Tisch was finished, no matter what. They were not going to allow him in a clubhouse. They were not going to allow him in owners' meetings. It was done. Well, what came out yesterday is that Steve Tisch has asked the NFL to approve a transaction where every single share that he owns of the New York Giants will pass according to his succession plan to his children, not when he croaks, but right frickin' now. Of course, it brings up the very important question. Did Steve Tisch realize what he had done with Epstein was a problem and that more was going to come out? And before football would have a chance to kick him out, he's going to take the bull by the horns and get out? Do you think that's the scenario? Well, let me tell you the real scenario. It's called EP, baby. Estate planning. Steve Tisch was not going to die with the shares of the team. He wanted to move it along to his son and to his children as they continue the decades and generations long involvement and ownership in Major League Baseball. It's an optics issue. It's not an avoid investigation, I did it, I'm screwed issue. It might be true that he did something nefarious and awful. I don't know. What I do know is if he doesn't own the shares anymore, then the NFL not only doesn't know, but they ratchet that up just a level too. I don't even care. So is there a benefit right now to the NFL for what Steve Tisch is doing by transferring his stakes to his children? There is a level of relief, but would it have been enough? I do not believe that Roger Goodell called up Steve Tisch and said, Stevie boy, you are about to get screwed. We've got you hand to fist. That's not the expression. We've got you head to heart, right to out. I'm blanking, Coco. What's that expression? We have you blank. Well, someone will. Dead to rights. Yes. Was that the chat or was that you, Coca? I, dead to rights. What I was saying, Coca, and I know you're thinking about your segment coming up, which is coming up in about 25 minutes, and you got a million things going on. But dead to rights is if Roger Goodell calls Steve Tisch and says, hey, you're dead to rights, man. We got 49 things right here. You're going to be suspended, and we're going to maybe force a sale on you. Do you want that level of embarrassment? Because we would prefer not. We would very much like you to move up your already existing timeline for succession and estate planning and get her done right now. Is it possible that happened? Yes. Is it also possible that in the creation of certain trusts for the benefit of Steve's children, that there was a date certain where there were going to be tranches of distributions? You'll get 10% of the team on this day. A year later, you'll get 10% of the team on that day. And then we'll wait 2 years to get you 20%. And then over the course of 5 years, you will have all of my shares. That is extremely likely from a business standpoint. Very common, by the way. So what do I think the truth is? Pure speculation, not irresponsible journalism, simply host speculation, is that there was a timeline for Steve Tisch to do this, and they simply moved it up to now, realizing that it's simply better PR to go through the little hit over the next few days like, oh, he's just avoiding something. He was about to get absolutely crushed by the NFL. Those stories are going to last a couple days, and then the NFL has succeeded because then they're gone. So the way it works is when you want to do a transfer of shares to a trust or as part of a succession plan, you submit a memo that must be, it's a pack of information that the league has. The league then prepares a memo that goes out to the other owners for their perusal before they get the call-in number for a conference Zoom call in order to approve the transaction. Because then you can't have an owner saying, well, I didn't realize that, or I didn't know the valuation, or I didn't know you were doing it. RTFD. Read the frickin' document, and your answers will be found. In the category of too good to be true, I got one for you. The Cleveland Browns, I hesitate to have to discuss them further as they embark on this amazing journey to build a new football stadium. The excitement of going to a different place, but still, quote unquote, staying in Cleveland. The knowledge that you're going to have space and development, and just it feels good when you start building a stadium, when you're in control of overruns, when you're in control of sales, and you are just humming along, so you hope. And then, as it always does, when you least expect it and something you have not been worried about at all, part of the funding of this new stadium outside of Cleveland was a revenue stream that is one of my favorite revenue streams that exists in this world. It is money that the state of Ohio owes you, and you don't even know it. I used to think before I got to Wall Street, Coca, that this was like fantasy. What does it mean that there are people who have not cashed their tax refunds? What does it mean that there are people who are owed money, who had money in a bank account and somehow left it there and forgot about it? It's the old story of going back to Shohei and his interpreter. Is it possible that Shohei was wiring out money in those millions of dollars fraudulently being done by his interpreter and he had no idea? Maybe. But I'll tell you right now, if you are not Shohei Ohtani and you do not have 9 to 10 zeros in your bank account, I'd like to believe that you're keeping track of it. That's just me. Call me crazy. But it turns out that there's almost $2 billion that Ohio has of unclaimed money. Just think about that if you don't mind. Uncashed checks, inactive bank accounts, abandoned safety deposit boxes. Those are just part of the sources of money that exist, but it truly is a contingent liability because guess what? If someone comes up to you and says, "Hi, my name is David Samson. I believe you've got $25 million of mine, and I totally forgot about it, but then it occurred to me when I looked under the Resolute desk and I saw an account number with a password. This is me." Ohio gets all upset. That's $25 million down the drain. So what Ohio's plan was, they were going to take that $1.7 to $1.9 billion and they were putting it into the ballpark. Now, an Ohio magistrate judge said, hold on, folks. You think you're going to transfer billions of dollars in unclaimed funds for sports arenas? I'm not exactly sure we're going to be okay with that. Right now, what it means is that the project cannot tap these funds. What it means is that the money that was supposed to come out of these accounts and go into a separate fund that would be basically controlled by the Browns for their benefit has not been created. They do not have access to it. Haslam, who owns the Browns, you may know the name because we've talked about him a whole heck of a lot on this show. Haslam came out and said, hey, this may delay stuff. Why? When you've got a sources and uses of funds in a public document, there is an order that money is coming in. You negotiate that order in advance of signing the document with the public. Sometimes you put team money in first, sometimes public money first. Sometimes you have to exhaust the team contribution before the public starts or the other way around. Sometimes you just trade off. 1 month you put in the money, the next month the public puts in the money. But there is very strict adherence to this schedule. I have no idea how the Browns and their leadership did not know in advance that this revenue stream was in jeopardy and they had to plan accordingly. Because when you know that you've planned on something that doesn't happen, whatever it is, you planned on seeing a friend, it didn't happen. You planned on making extra money at bonus time, it didn't happen. Whatever is the case, man, you got to have that absolutely buttoned up during stadium construction, because you can't sit around diddling, waiting for a new chain of command in terms of financing. Meanwhile, subs are going to go to another job. You're not going to lock down prices for all of the contractors you need and all of the materials you need, unless you say, screw it, I'll just put in the money myself. I'll get paid back from the account later. Yikes. Haslam Sports Group said, quote, we might need to cover additional expenses in the meantime, potentially paying interest on loans or using money currently held in investments. What does that mean? That means that these billionaire owners, of course, they have the money to do their contribution, but it doesn't mean that it's liquid sitting in Benjamins underneath the mattress. When Haslam tells you that there is more interest to be paid because they're going to borrow the money, which is what they do to build the stadium, they're borrowing money to give to the project because the state of Ohio was not ready for whatever reason. When you borrow that money, you've got to pay it back with interest, and the interest expenses go on your balance sheet every single year. That's a bad racket if you are the Haslams, that you want to get caught with your proverbial credit pants at your ankles. There's just no reason for it. You don't want your interest expense line to be out of control in your budget. Much like in your budget, if you don't pay your credit card in full, you start paying interest and it's a usurious amount. And then you realize that every check you're writing that does not get rid of this interest is a problem. So Haslam was honest. How does this end? This is going to end with a very interesting lawsuit. And I believe that it will end with Ohio agreeing to fund its share of the project, regardless of if it's from the unclaimed funds pot. DeWine will find another way. Let's go to the review, please, Coca. It is Oscar time. The Oscars are coming up this Sunday. Conan O'Brien is full rehearsal mode, getting the monologue tight. They are looking at the in memoriam 10 different ways, trying to figure out who do I end it with. What a terrible year of loss it has been. It's going to be one of those in memoriams, the kind I talked about at the previous award show. Like, wow, that was unbelievable, the number of people who passed this year. Say the same thing every year, but this one, I mean it. So they're getting ready for the show, and I wanted to give you, I'll review the entire Oscar, the Academy Awards on Monday. No show tomorrow, but we have a show next week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. Bit of a different schedule. But I wanted to give you 6 Oscar predictions. I have not released my ballot. I plan on it. Yes, I take this seriously. I'm working on it. I'm going back and forth. There's a few absolutes and a few question marks. Let me start with, these are all Coca wait to sees. These are not picks of the day. These are 6 wait to sees that we will follow up with on Monday. If Jessie Buckley does not win Best Actress, then I commit to you, Matthew Coca, that forget tripling your salary, which is a guarantee. I'll do that for you. But I will make it so that your life is made so much better, because I will find a way to never say no to you. I'll find a way to be your just angel in the outfield. I mean, otherwise, I'm not going to do that. But that's how sure I am Jessie Buckley's going to win Best Actress. It is the only award of these 6 that I'm giving you that is a guarantee. Let's go to Best Actor. Chalamet. Chalamet is not my pick. Marty Supreme was only okay. Michael B. Jordan for the win. Swish. Yes, not because he played 2 characters. Plenty of people play 2 characters. But because his performance of both characters was superb. Is it true that Timothée Chalamet could learn to platform his desires differently to win an Academy Award? Yeah. Do I think Chalamet was the second best performance of the year? No. I would take Leonardo DiCaprio's performance in One Battle After Another before I would take Chalamet's performance. I would take Wagner Moore's performance in The Secret Agent before I would take Chalamet's performance. But by the way, it was damn good. You were nominated. Michael B. Jordan, you are going to be an Oscar winner for Best Actor. I am so happy for Amy Madigan and the fact that she's going to win Best Supporting Actress for Weapons. I'm happy for the movie that it's going to get attention. I'm happy for her and her career and this crowning achievement. Where do you go from here? As you know, not a ton of great roles for older women, which is too bad because she's damn good. Amy Madigan for Supporting Actress. Supporting Actor is a little more complicated. By the way, Supporting Actresses too. That's just, I'm going with Madigan. Could it be Tiana? Of course it could. Supporting Actor, I want to give it to Stellan Skarsgård because he's that good in sentimental value. I want him to win. But when I'm looking at the tea leaves and thinking about the Oscars, Sean Penn is going to get his third Oscar. Sean Penn deserves, as an actor, to be in rarefied territory, and he's going to be. His third acting Oscar will place him amongst the very best of all time, and that is his rightful place. His performance as Lockjaw in One Battle After Another is as disgusting as it is scary, as nuanced as it is clubbing you in the head. It's the type of performance that is a winning performance. Now, whether he shows or not, I'm in favor of him not showing up, because then it's I accept this on behalf of Sean Penn. See you later. Boom. We got ourselves a tight show. Best Director, there are people saying that if it's not Coogler, it's an outrage, an absolute outrage. You have to do it. Well, you don't have to do it. It's going to be Paul Thomas Anderson for One Battle After Another. Is going to win. It's as much a lifetime achievement for PTA as it is for anybody else, including Scorsese when he got his Best Director Oscar. But he's deserving. So when you're both deserving and you're in this situation, you give it to the guy. Best Picture. Sorry, folks. You're not getting that today. I'm not giving you my pick of what's going to win Best Picture. I will do it at some point this weekend. Make sure you're following me on David P. Samson on X, on Instagram. Make sure you're paying attention this weekend, because there's going to be some drips and drabs of information coming out, followed by a picture of the full ballot. But I'm not telling you that One Battle After Another is winning Best Picture. I'm not saying that right now. I'm not telling you that Sinners doesn't have a chance to win Best Picture. I'm not saying it right now. Do you remember when I told you that the WNBA would wrap it up? They'd wrap it up. Wrap it up, guys. I had a damn wait to see from March 4th, 8 days ago, that they would wrap this up by March 10th. When Adam Silver said he wants to wrap it up by March 10th, we told you that was a fake deadline, and then we made a wait to see that it was going to be settled by the fake deadline. But bene. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, David. Of course I got that wait to see wrong. The WNBA and the WNBPA are still going at it. I love it when they release after a negotiating session. It really makes me happy. We were there till 3 a.m. We sat at that table. We looked at each other. We took some good and plenty breaks, but we definitely sat at that table for 10 hours, for 18 hours. We've been there 30 out of the last 33 hours working for you, the fan. Working for you, the customer. Oi, give me a break. I try to tell our players something on a pretty consistent basis. Nothing good is happening at 3 a.m. If you are not where you're ending up at 3 a.m., you're not going to get to a good place. So just shut her down, boys. Go home. I feel the same way about collective bargaining negotiations. Nothing good happens at 3 a.m., but you get a good announcement, I guess. Well, the WNBPA is still going at it with the WNBA. They have no agreement, but they updated this morning saying, hey, we had another marathon session. We went 12 large, baby. We're still meeting. We're close. We feel really good. There's movement. This is how it works. Right when you're getting close to finish, you get the little final push, the little final give, the little final take. You start planning the announcement. You start planning the logistics of when the draft will be, the expansion draft, the regular draft, when the free agent period will start. Because when it gets leaked that the WNBA has a collective bargaining agreement with the Players Association, it is going to be announced in concert with a timeline. Either the season will be impacted and have to start late, or it won't. Either free agency will start within 24 hours or 72 hours. Whatever the case is, that's the kind of stuff that when you start seeing that leaked, you know that there is a finish line. Because when you start preparing for the announcement, your leverage to strike, your leverage to lock out, your leverage has pretty much disappeared. And I got the feeling that the WNBA and the Players Association are starting to talk about those types of things. We'll find out, that is for sure. Now, why is it that there is frustration? There's frustration because the players want to play, the owners want to own, and this is what happens at the end of a CBA. Believe me, it'll happen in baseball. What I can't deal with is Caitlin Clark's quote. She was training with the U.S. national team, and she talked to reporters finally. I thought, all right, we've got some gravitas here. We've got her engaged. She's going to tell us what's happening, when, where, and how. Nope. Caitlin Clark said, quote, I don't understand why we don't just get in a room and iron it out and shake hands. That's how business is. You look each other in the eye, you shake hands, you respect both sides. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I don't want to ruin anybody's view of what a business meeting is, or of what the love is, or the lack of love, or the real practical way that agreements happen. But here's what I can promise you. When you have to say, let's not leave this room until we solve this problem. Like if you're in a marital argument or a family argument or something with your kid, and that's what you go to. We're not leaving this room until we settle this, young man. Do you think that that's how it works? Yeah, they sit across from each other at the table and they say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to stay here. I don't care if it's 36 hours in a row. Yes, we've got deodorant ready to go. We have food coming in every 2 hours, and the coffee is HO triple. When I heard that quote, I just wanted to sing, why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Sorry, Caitlin. Sorry to ruin it for you, but it ain't happening. Nothing personal pick of the day. Personal pick of the day presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. We've got a break in the World Baseball Classic action. Thank God, given the fact that I lost my pick of USA over Mexico by 3.5 runs, but I digress. We've got an intriguing Western Conference Finals potential matchup, and I don't mean one that involves the aspirational Clippers. I'm talking about Nuggets-Spurs. The Nuggets getting 5.5 versus the Spurs. It is my recollection, Coca, my distinct recollection, that not only does Denver tend to cover as road underdogs, but also that Denver has been struggling to beat San Antonio, like everybody else this year. Well, as we get closer to April, and we are there, it's the middle of March, folks. We're like 13 days from opening day in baseball, which means the NBA playoffs are upon us. It is time for the Nuggets to look at the Spurs and say, yeah, we can stay on this court with you, even on your own home court. You're going to give me 5.5 points with Jokic. I'm taking it every day of the week and twice on Thursday. That is the Nothing Personal Pick of the Day presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. We are 14-18 because on Monday we did have the USA 3.5 runs over Mexico. Not only did it not work out, because we only won by 2. That's it. We didn't cover the damn 3.5 runs. When it was the run line that I thought it would be 1.5, we covered it by winning by 2. There's no winning for losing. We are 14-18. Don't worry, we got more coming at you. We'll do it with Coca after the break. As someone who is always on the go and still wanting to hit my protein goals each day, I find it hard to get that done without some help. Breakfast can be a bit chaotic for me, and that's why after the show, I grab myself a Black Edition ready to drink. Our friends at Huel have perfected a high-protein drink for all of us who are on the go. My go-to is the chocolate peanut butter. It's a complete meal packed with 35 grams of protein, 27 essential vitamins and minerals, which I can't particularly name, no artificial sweeteners, and it actually tastes yummy. Mostly. On days where I'm home, I'll use the Black Edition powder. I can make a smoothie, I can throw in whatever I want to customize it for that day, or I can just add water and shake it up. Shake it up, baby. Having both the RTD ready to drink and the powder in my kitchen keeps me from falling off my routine. We've got a limited time offer. Thank you so much, Huel. Get Huel today with my exclusive offer of 15% off online with my code Samson15 at Huel.com/Samson15. New customers only. Thank you to Huel for partnering and supporting our show. Remember to fill out that post-checkout survey and support NPDS. It matters. Huel. Yummy. Coca. I got a few things to say to you, Coca. Could you join our show, please, if you can? Hey, what's up, buddy? For those of you listening, you don't know what just happened, but my life just is brighter when I get to see Coca on the old split screen. It means it's the last hour of the week, and man, did you cover my tuchus yesterday, Coca. Thank you very much. How did it go yesterday?
It was definitely, it was good. I feel more comfortable when I can just, play the host, but it was with Adnan and Jeremy, and those guys can talk. That's what I will say. They can
love those guys.
Talk and talk and talk.
Well, that's the best thing about that.
Yeah, but it was one of those things where like Adnan gave the rundown for the day, and I don't like doing that because there's always conversations that pop up. So like there's sometimes you don't get to something that you gave in that rundown. So he had teased we're going to do NHL talk. So there could be some poor souls who were just sitting there waiting for NHL talk, and we didn't talk any NHL.
And so you taught me this early on. I don't know what episode we're at, but he said, I used to do that too. And you said, be very careful what you tease about what's coming up in your show, because the way you do Nothing Personal, you go off on tangents, you do side stories, you think of a story to tell, and then all of a sudden you don't talk about what you said you were going to talk about. And I used to do that a lot in the early days, Coca, but I have broken that habit thanks to you. But did you give Adnan notes? Because I'm so thankful to Adnan and Jeremy Taché for coming on the show, and for you guys for doing it. Yesterday was just an impossible emergency that I had to deal with, and that's going to happen here from time to time, unfortunately, because of the situation with my daughter. But thank you. And did you give Adnan notes and Jeremy notes the way you give me notes after a show? Are you in their ear saying, move on, hurry up, or are you giving them nuggets to say? How does that work?
Well, I was on air, so it's like I can't really give those notes as the show's going on, but you try and give like a time, right? You say, hey, we've only got a couple minutes left. We've got 1 minute left. Let me get a quick answer on this. And sometimes you just blow right past it.
You can feel Dan's pain,
but
right?
Can I need to tell you about what happened to me after the show yesterday. So after the show, I had to go to the dentist. And it was like my life was like an action movie for the first time ever. Like I felt like I was the main character in something, and if there was like a camera following me, it was just incredible. So I had to get to the dentist by 10 a.m. So I left at 9:30, and I was like, I'm not going to be able to make it if I take the train. Let me call an Uber. And I walk outside, and the street outside my apartment is shut down. So no Uber would be able to get there. So I was like, okay, there's a bus here. Let me hop on the bus. So I get on the bus, and the bus is going. We're like 10 minutes into the ride. Then the bus stops because there's a person on a wheelchair that they have to let off the bus. So the bus is like lowering the ramp, and it's taking time. And I'm sitting there, and my legs are starting to shake. I have like 15 minutes until I have to get to this appointment. So I call them up. I'm like, listen, I'm going to be a couple minutes late. They're like, if you're not here by 10:15, the appointment's canceled. The bus starts going and more construction. The bus says, hey, we're not going to be able to take the regular route. If you can't, if you have a stop on that route, you have to get off here. So I get off. I start sprinting down the road. I have to take an elevator from like a cliff down to like sea level. I get down there. I find a city bike, and I just take off on the city bike, and I'm just dripping sweat. And I get in there at 10:15. I'm all out of breath, and then it's time for the dentist. So I'm getting legally waterboarded. They're scraping my teeth, and that was my morning. But I felt like like Keanu Reeves. It felt good.
I have so many questions, and I'll just stay with two of them. Why, if an Uber at the front of your street is closed, why can't you just pin a different location for the Uber and have the Uber pick you up on a different street, like right next door to your apartment?
Because I live at the end of a one-way. So, like, you have to come up that one way to get to the corner
How
of my
long would
apartment.
the walk be to get to another street?
That's the other thing, is that the cross street is the main road. So the main road is always fully backed up. And at the end of the main road, it turns into another one-way street. So there's no way that you can maneuver around in a short amount of time, because then you're stuck at the back of the traffic.
So what you figured out is that Uber was not going to get you there in time.
Yep.
And you put it in your Waze or in your Apple Maps, whatever you did, and it said that bus is the shortest because there's a walk option.
There was a bus.
car.
There was a bus right there.
Just happened to be a bus?
There just happened to be a bus. So I was like, let me just jump on this bus and then see what happens. And it was a morning. It was fun.
Well, let me see your teeth. Wow, they look very clean.
They hurt. Dude, they hurt.
Why, you don't
when
floss?
they're like
You gotta
sitting
floss.
there. No, they're like sitting there with like the scraper, and they're like scraping your teeth. And then like you're sitting in the chair, and they're like filling your mouth up with water, and they have that like suction thing in there, but sometimes it like doesn't work, so you like can't breathe. And then you can't talk to say like, hey, I can't breathe. So you just sit in it, and I don't like the dentist.
Well,
I don't
my
know many
dentist
people
is
who do.
Robert Raimondi, and Christy is my hygienist who cleans my teeth. And I love them both dearly. I see them 4 times a year because I love the dentist. It's one of my favorite places to go, actually. And I can just tell you that mouth care matters. But I want to mention something to you, because yesterday when I don't do a show, I get sad. And certainly for reasons that I can't do shows makes me even more sad. But I was thinking about you specifically because for whatever reason, your team seemed to be in the news way more than other teams. And that may be total bias of me not paying attention because every team's in the news. But I just feel like the Ravens and the Mets, who are your two favorites. Quickly, is it Ravens-Mets or Mets-Ravens? What's your order?
Well, I've seen 2 Ravens Super Bowls. So I think I would put the Ravens above them because they've meant more, but you get more of a season with the Mets. So I don't know. They both make me angry.
Well, they both make you, so that's a funny glass half empty thing. They both make you happy. But the Ravens have been in the news just significantly when they traded for Max Crosby, and I called you up and said, wow, you got that guy who was playing basketball on the pickup court after he was injured to show he wasn't injured, and the one who Tom Brady had to get rid of because he didn't want him anymore. And then the Raiders had signed all these guys and traded Crosby for 2 first-rounders. And ladies and gentlemen, I promise you this is what Coca said. Those Ravens better not lose our starting center to the Raiders. Because if they do, that means we will have traded that center whose name I forgot, and then 2 first-rounders for Crosby, and I don't want that. That's a bad trade. No sooner did Coca say it than the Raiders had signed this center to the biggest deal I'd ever seen. Coca, you've had like 3 different moments right now to tell me his name.
Tyler Linderbaum.
Wait, is he Jewish?
I don't know. Never
Tyler
mind.
Linderbaum? Linderbaum? How much is Linderbaum getting paid?
Well, he set the record. They set the record for the most amount of money given to a center. So he's sort of reset the market. I think it's around $28 million per year. But don't quote me on that.
Listen, to have someone standing right behind your buttocks for 50 to 70 plays per game, and then getting the hands deep down in there and you having to never miss, because when there's a missed snap, everyone goes crazy and it's so hard. And players are in the shotgun so much. Snapping a ball in the shotgun, not easy. But when you put it over the head or don't deliver it perfectly, all of a sudden you get crushed. It's a thankless job. And by the way, there's a 300-pound guy who can run a 4.4 who's like 2 inches from your nose while you're doing it. But anyway, so the Raiders did to the Ravens what you didn't want to have happen. You were despondent about it, and the next thing you know, the trade's over. They have totally, I don't know if you got to it yesterday, but that was it. No trade. Max Crosby back with the Raiders. The Ravens get their first-round picks back because they didn't disclose why, Coca, but I can tell you what happened is they had an out. When you sign an agreement with another club, you sign a letter of intent, an LOI, and it is pending 2 things always. 1 is commissioner's approval, because every trade has to get approved by the commissioner, and 2, it is pending completion of physicals or sign off by teams. You always have, like when you buy a house, a financing out, you always have an injury out in these deals. And so something happened and the Ravens said, we've changed our mind. And I was wondering, when the Ravens backed out of the Crosby trade, to me, you must have been happy. Is that accurate? Because you were upset that they traded 2 first-round picks.
That's not
Go
accurate.
ahead. So
I was
happened.
not upset that they traded 2 first-round picks. So that's just completely incorrect.
No, and the center.
No, they didn't trade the center. He was signed as a free agent. They
But
never
you
traded
said
him.
you can.
All right.
You're going to deny
okay.
this.
Just listen.
Go ahead.
It looks like in the optics of it look like it was 2 first-round picks and Tyler Linderbaum for Max Crosby, which looks worse than it actually is, because you're losing your starting center, and there's not many as good as Tyler Linderbaum that would be on the market, or if you're going to draft a center. That's why it looked like that. But I did want Max Crosby because he's an elite edge rusher. So the way in my brain that it looked was like, okay, the number 14 pick would be for Max Crosby, so it really looks like it's just 1 first-round pick for Max Crosby. That's the way I worked it out. But then there was the situation with the knee, right? And towards the end of last season, Max Crosby didn't want to sit those games. The Raiders came out and said, no, you have an issue. We're going to sit you. Crosby was upset about it. Then it came out, hey, he's getting a full meniscus repair. It wasn't just like a cleanup. It was a full repair. So when this news came out with the Ravens backing out of the trade, the first thing I said to my friends was it had to have been something with the physical. Like that's what it is. Because the whole cold feet thing doesn't make sense to me, because it looks, I don't think that the Ravens or Eric DeCosta or Steve Bisciotti or anybody in the league would be so disrespectful to have a free agent fly to, or have a trade, where they came to the city. They announced the trade, like the player announced, hey, I'm leaving the Raiders. They came to the city. They hosted them, for them to be like, oh, there's another free agent who's out there in Trey Hendrickson. Let's go and sign him. That doesn't make sense to me for it to be something where they got cold feet. I think they really saw something that was in the physical, where they said, hey, we're going to give this guy $30 million a year. In year 3 or year 2, that knee could be an issue and he could miss more time. So we don't feel confident with the price, right? The price being those 2 first-round picks. We don't feel confident in that deal. Maybe they renegotiate that deal and they say, hey, we'll give you a first-round pick and a 4th-round pick, or a first-round pick and a 5th-round pick. And from when Eric DeCosta was talking about it, he said that did come up in conversation was, could we possibly renegotiate this? But the way that the physical looked and the way that the knee looked, it wasn't good enough for them to even do that.
You get stuck very much during these negotiations when you're making a trade, and this has happened to me several times, where you go back to the team you're trading with and say, hey, this guy's arm's about to fall off. Like his UCL is about to shred. He's got an issue with his shoulder. He's got a problem with a degenerative hip. I mean, you can come up with all sorts of great stuff when you are exchanging physicals or doing MRIs to players you're going to acquire. And what you do is you go back to the team that you're trading with and say, hey, FYI, you knew this. I'm sorry. this is not worth 2 first-rounders anymore. And what DaCosta said is right. You try for a renegotiation, and if it doesn't happen, you've got to be willing to walk away. The reason why I would never like to renegotiate when we were trading a player who we knew was hurt is that I would never want to be in a position where in the market I'm taking back a trade. Like the Raiders' position now, they're screwed because there are 31 teams, including, frankly, the Ravens, who now have downvalued Max Crosby. So you don't end up getting more for Max when you start and turn him around to move him to a different team after he's failed a physical, or the Ravens have basically reneged on the deal for whatever reason they're saying, which they haven't said, but it is the physical. But his value's gone down. So we would just as soon, if there's going to be that sort of renegotiation, we would be more likely to have that renegotiation because we would measure to ourselves that we're still getting more from this renegotiated trade.
You did do this. So let's talk about that in the situation that you had with the Padres. Was there a point where you had the players come to you, or was this just the exchanging of the medical records? Like, where did that trade that you did, what point did you guys realize, hey, something is up? Because you did do this where you did renegotiate a trade and you guys changed the parameters of it to make it work.
We had the commissioner's office get involved because there was fraud. So that's totally different. AJ Preller of the San Diego Padres, who is a fraudster, he kept 2 different sets of medical books, which is unheard of. It's absolutely illegal against the rules. When you exchange medical, you have to show your logbooks. You have to show what players went to the training room and why they were there. And AJ Preller of the Padres somehow kept a different set of books about Colin Ray and about other players and what their real ailments were. And we got wind of it. And we got wind of it only after. Remember, he had, you're going to correct me because this is years ago. I believe that he made an appearance for the Marlins as a Marlin. The trade was done, and then we got wind of this second set of medical books because after one appearance with us, he had this strange injury. And we said, wow, that's just unlucky. And then he's like, no, man, I had this all year. And we were like, what? It's not in the records. And then we were like, hey, San Diego, how come there's nothing in the record about his elbow or shoulder or knees or toes or head? And they're like, oh, sorry. And then the commissioner's office got involved and it got unwound. Now, please correct me if I'm wrong. And you can't do it while you're on the show, but maybe for next week or maybe someone in the chat. Am I wrong that Colin Ray made an appearance for the Marlins? Do I have that memory wrong? After so many years in baseball with so many transactions and so many things, I could be conflating.
2016?
That the trade was in 2016. The question is...
it says one appearance.
He did. Do you know how rare that is?
He started one game, 3.1 innings, 1 hit, 4 strikeouts, and then he didn't play. And he missed all of 2017.
God, that's funny. That was a real problem for the commissioner because he didn't know what to do because can you imagine unwinding a trade after the players have made appearances for the team to which they were traded? It's very, very uncommon. But what they found with what Preller had done, that absolute fraud, it became a huge deal within the owners' meetings, within other teams, thinking that they were dealing, you're competing against the other 29 teams. There's 30 of you. You compete your ass off. But there's, you can label your players for sure. The Yankees are famous for that. They'll say their prospects are great and the rest of us think they stink. But that's good PR. But to commit a fraud against your partner, that was bad. So I don't think that that's what happened in football with Crosby. And frankly, I'm not sure that they discovered anything on the physical that they didn't know already because in the exchange of physical, they would see all of Crosby's knee issues. They would see pictures. They could do their own MRI of his knee and discover the meniscus, etc. But I really thought, especially because they pivoted so quickly to Trey Hendrickson, how did they do that if they weren't prepared immediately for the possibility that they were embarrassed by the haul that they had given for Crosby? That's a really quick pivot.
Well, Trey Hendrickson was always a free agent.
But
Like, he was always
right. Why did he
that's
agree
what
with the Ravens that fast?
because from what the reporting, listen, this is just reporting, right? And this is all we can base this stuff on, because we'll never get the correct answer, was that the Ravens had already been negotiating with Trey Hendrickson and his agent before Max Crosby even got to the Ravens, to Baltimore, to the facility, that there could have been some world where they had both players, where they signed Trey Hendrickson and teamed him up with Max Crosby. That's just the reporting.
Wait, they have cap room for both?
Well, they restructured Lamar's contract, like they quietly did that. So they opened up a ton of cap space this season to do that. And you can do that when a player is signed. So I think they opened up like $70 million in cap space by restructuring Lamar's deal.
I'm laughing because you read that all the time. Like, I think Patrick Mahomes has restructured his deal 69 times since he signed it in order to open up cap space. And you read about players doing this all the time. And then how dumb do you have to be in football to get stuck with $99 of dead cap money? Like,
$99 million.
$99 million of dead cap money. It's just so funny to me that people find a way around the cap. There's groups of people who are hired by a football team to get around that which was negotiated to actually be helpful to them, and everyone wants to get around it. And all you do, it's such a joke. You sign Lamar Jackson, and then you restructure, and then you need more cap room, so you restructure again and restructure. It seems like
when you were in these situations, did you try and get ahead of the story because you knew it would come out? So when you're operating with a different team, the thing that makes it look so ugly for the Ravens is the fact that the Raiders were the ones who put out the statement, right? Like, they were the ones who put it out there, hey, the Ravens have backed out of this trade. And then it was radio silence from the Ravens until Eric DeCosta spoke, almost 24 hours later, or more than 24 hours later, is when he finally spoke. So did you like getting ahead of these stories? Or did you say, hey, there's nothing we can do?
Just so you know, if your player is not in the computer as a member of your roster, you're not allowed to talk about that player. There are strict rules in baseball. We could not have. Now, Crosby, I do not believe ever switched from Raiders to Ravens. I believe he was always on the Raiders roster during this process.
Well, there was no deals could become official until Wednesday at 4 p.m.
So the Ravens could not actually comment. It's commenting on another player. So it would have to be the Raiders who would do it. The Ravens would not be able to. But in terms of waiting, listen, if they waited and DeCosta, the best he came up with is he understands how people might maybe from afar would feel a certain way, but nobody's more upset than me. He meant more upset than I. I'm gutted by it, actually. I don't understand. They controlled it. When you get a player, Coca, and their elbows come falling off, you can still take the player. You can still pass that guy and do the trade. So why is he saying he's gutted? I found that to be disingenuous. I don't know Eric DeCosta. Does he have that reputation that he speaks in that level of hyperbole?
Yeah, I mean, it was him and John Harbaugh were teamed up for that long, right? And they sort of speak the same way, where everything is, doom and gloom, and they're so hurt when these things happen. And it's just like, like every conversation with John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson is like, oh, I love him so much. I love him. I have so much love for him. And you're like, dude, they're not asking that. They're asking if you and Lamar have a good relationship, right? Like, it's not the same thing. But I want
a downgrade from Crosby.
They just do different things. Like Max Crosby.
I thought they were rushers.
Yeah, but that's like quarterbacks, right? Are quarterbacks all the same? No.
I get you.
They all have their own attributes. So
who would
Max
you rather
Crosby,
have?
For what the Ravens need, I'd probably rather have Max Crosby, because he's really good at getting to the quarterback, but where he is best is like stopping the run too. Like he's just that good at doing both. Whereas Trey Hendrickson brings like a different dynamic where he's more of like a pure pass rusher than he is a run stopper as well. But let's talk about Steve Kerr, because shortening the season is one thing, and I understand why teams and players would want that to happen, but I want to talk more about the financial side of this, where what happens when a season is shortened with where the cap currently is. So in the NBA, where Steve Kerr's coming out and he says, listen, I know this will not be a popular opinion in the league office, but I will continue to say it because it's obvious. We need to play fewer games. We need to take 10 games off the schedule. I think it would be a more competitive and healthier league if we had fewer games. So he's talking about going from 82 to 72. What happens to the money in a situation like this?
I want to get to this because it's such a great topic, and I think about shortening MLB season all the time. The thing is, Steve Kerr has become a little curmudgeonly in his old age. Like, he certainly, whatever his politics are, it's fine, but he certainly takes the opportunity to speak very often politically. He is very much, remember when he got involved talking about Porzingis, and then he had to apologize for talking about it? I didn't mean it, or I didn't say it right. And the Warriors just, it's what happens. They're an aging dynasty. Steve Kerr's been a part of 2 full dynasties as a player with the Bulls, as a coach with the Warriors. And what a run for Steve Kerr. I think he may be out of fingers, though I don't know for sure. Maybe not. Maybe he's got 6 or 7 or 8 championships. I know Phil Jackson ran out of fingers. But Steve Kerr has been this champion of certain points for so long. This is not the first time he's talked about this, shortening the season. And there's really no particular reason to continue to bring it up. The finances of it are really simple, but they're complicated in the way owners look at them. But we've always tried to convince owners they're not looking at it right. But here's what they say. If you pay a player to play 82 games and you pay him $82 million, $1 million a game, if they only play 72 games, then I only want to pay that player $72 million. It's the same million a game, it's just fewer games. The Players Union has always maintained, whether it's 82 or 72, you gave me $82 million for an entire season. Whether that season ends up being 81 games or 75 games or 65 games, sorry, if I end up getting hurt or I don't feel great or you don't think I slept well for load management purposes, you sit me, I still get paid that amount. So players have never been willing to take less money for working less. So that's the first issue with the expense side of going down in games. The second issue is the revenue side. The revenue argument is that if a team sponsor pays you $1 million for every home game to have a sign on the floor, and you have 41 home games for $41 million, we're just doing it so the math is easy. If you end up with only 36 home games, query, will that company then only give you $36 million, in which case your revenue has gone down $5 million? My argument is no. My argument is that these sponsors are getting a season's worth of blank, of tickets, of exposure, of being in the news cycle, whatever the case may be. I have spoken to sponsors about this very concept. There is not one contract I ever signed with a sponsor that called for a decrease in the sponsorship if we didn't have 81 games. If there's a rainout, if there's a cancellation, if there's an issue, there was no adjustment of the sponsorship revenue. There are adjustments in the revenue if a season is lost to collective bargaining, to a force majeure like a storm. There's a hurricane that means you have to move out of Miami for a half-year season. There's a threshold where there is an option to terminate the deal or to adjust the amount of the deal, but that threshold is not losing 5 games. The way Steve Kerr is saying, hey, let's go down 10 games, 5 on the road, 5 at home. There would be no deleterious impact on sponsorship revenue. Let's talk ticket revenue. The owners say, hey, man, I sell out every day. You can't take away 5 home dates. I make $5 million every time I open my doors. Give me that $25 million back. That's a real issue for teams, but the teams who were arguing that, Coca, 10 years ago, one of them, wait for it, the St. Louis Cardinals. The St. Louis Cardinals argued that they would not give up home revenue by having a shortened season unless they got paid because they didn't have a ticket to spare. Guess what? We're only 10 years later. The Cardinals are on their tuchus. They've got seats everywhere. You could take 5 home games away from St. Louis right now, and no one would say boo. So the up and downs. So when the revenue goes down in a salary cap league, Coca, of course the salary cap goes down. Because
I just want to know where Steve Kerr has been this entire time, right? He said
Steve
no,
Kerr,
but it's just
right?
when the Warriors were winning championships, right? When Steph Curry's running up and down the court, firing off threes, not missing games.
He probably
when Klay
still
Thompson's
wanted a
doing
short
this
season.
Yeah, but I don't think that he was as vocal as he is now because Steph Curry has been hurt this whole season. You know, it's towards the end of his reign. Right, it doesn't look like the Warriors are going to compete for a title anytime soon. It looks like it's sort of the end of the line, right? And that's what I'm saying is like now it's coming out more and more, like this, like it's like now I can speak about these things, but when I was doing it, right, when I was running this fast-paced offense before other teams caught up to the style of play that we were doing. Everything was okay, but now everybody
Just
is
remember,
too big,
Coca,
too fast, too strong.
If the NBA were doing a trial balloon, which is what leagues do through certain spokespeople, whether it's an owner or a player, these trial balloons are something that they're looking to do. Steve Kerr is not the conduit that the NBA would use as a trial balloon for anything. He just doesn't have the credibility anymore. He's obviously a Hall of Fame coach. He's obviously had an unbelievable career, and the Warriors were the dynasty, but not today. Mm-hmm. There was a time when he'd be a great trial balloon. Popovich was a great trial balloon for stuff back in his heyday, but not anymore, obviously. So Kerr saying this stuff does not indicate to me that the NBA is leading toward this in any way whatsoever.
Yeah, and I don't understand the whole they're going to compete more thing because I don't know if that really changes anything just because of the way in which teams and players operate, right? Like the end goal is always going to be a championship. I don't know if do you think they have like more rest days in between? Like, do you think that's the way that the NBA would want to, like, let's say theoretically it goes to 72 games, right? In a 72 game world, are they going to add more rest days or are they just going to shorten the calendar up so the rest days sort of stay the same? You're still playing 72 games, but now in a shorter time frame, and then you're still going to get to the playoffs. So I don't know if that curbs what these injuries would be because you're just shortening this. You're shortening the calendar altogether. So it had to be
it comes
this
with
world
expansion,
where it
though.
stays the same.
Coca, just so you know, when you shorten the regular season, it comes with expanded postseason. This would not be where the calendar would be shortened.
Well, they can't expand. They can't expand any further than what they've already done. Right now, with the play-in,
they can. The play-in can be 2 out of 3. The play-in can be a 2 out of 3 series.
You're saying that just the play-in itself would be expanded.
The number of games,
not the amount of teams that make
correct.
That. Okay, because I was going to say you're going to have teams with 15 wins getting into the play-in, and that's like we're already at the regular season.
Because I think that what you do is when we talk about MLB shortening its season, what we talk about is you give more rest days during the course of the season, but what you do then is you also combine that with an expansion of the playoffs where there's a 3 out of 5 in the division series, you make that a 4 out of 7. And so you're giving yourself the potential of 8 more games of inventory. So that would be the give and take of shortening regular season. The other thing you do with a regular season, and the NBA's MLB, every NFL, frankly, too, which they don't need to, you're trying to make something more interesting. That's why you have the in-season tournament, why you have the international games. And so if the NBA can find a way to do something with the regular season to make every game matter more, it just helps with the value of those games.
You didn't say who you thought was going to win the World Baseball Classic, did you?
No.
Well,
did you?
Well, I mean, this is my first opportunity to talk about it, so
you didn't talk about it yesterday at all?
Well, no, because the quarterfinals wasn't set, so I couldn't really explain that. But I thought that's where you would go with your pick of the day today, or on Thursday would be.
Well, no one plays today.
Give us. Yeah, but you always do weekend picks. It's the last show of the week.
Right.
So I think you kind of chickened out because
I did.
you want USA to win, and you're rooting for USA to win because of your relationship to Team USA. But you believe that Team USA will win, and the reason I bring that up is, I talked to Jeremy and Adnan about it on Wednesday, was that these other countries care. That game with the Dominican Republic versus Venezuela on Wednesday was one of the most electric baseball games that I've ever seen. Fernando Tatis Jr., he threw that bat that I think it went from Miami to the Dominican Republic when he hit that 3-run home run. So you see that passion. You see the passion, and you see the energy, and you see the love that they're showing. And then, Team USA, it's like you have all these questions about it. We have, hey, Pete Alonso saying, no, nobody asked me to play in this game, where Pete Alonso is an energy guy. And I feel like that's what Team USA is before the information thing. I feel like Team USA is lacking that sort of energy that these other teams have. So that's why it's tough for me to be like, hey, they squeaked into it. Maybe they can run the table here. And I hate doing that because Nolan McLean, who kind of gave it up against Italy, is one of the guys who would be pitching again, and he's a Met guy. So I want to see him succeed. But I just think that if the Dominican Republic wins and they can get past Team USA, I like their chances to take the tournament. So I'm going with the Dominican Republic just because I want to see them play more. That's the only reason that I'm taking them.
When would the Dominican only play USA in the finals?
No, I believe it's the semifinals.
So USA Canada is a quarterfinal, and Dominican Republic Korea is a quarterfinal, and the winners of those two play each other.
That's the way that the bracket looked like on the World Baseball Classic website. So I hope that my knowledge of reading a bracket is I hope I don't need like the formula breakdown for how teams advance to the quarterfinals. I hope I don't need that to have to just read a bracket on who plays who next.
Well, I know that USA plays Canada. It's Canada's first time. I love that fact. I think USA will beat Canada. I think that the Italy-Puerto Rico game fascinates me because Italy, undefeated in their pool, they have not lost a game yet. Everyone just says these are guys who eat, penne arrabbiata, but no, they've got bona fide major leaguers on that team. They are not schleppers at all. It's not like the old days where, Mike Piazza would come in as the coach or a player to be the greatest thing ever. He'd be a one-man band. Italy's a pretty complete team. So that's a tough game. Japan, Venezuela. Japan, I assume, is favored by our friends at DraftKings in that game. But let me tell you, it shouldn't be by much because Venezuela, they're deep. I don't view them as good as being as good as the Dominican. I just think that the USA right now, along with Japan and Dominican, are the three best teams. And we've got 3 teams out of 8 that are that good. It really is a toss-up. So it's
Japan minus 180. Venezuela plus 145. Puerto Rico is minus 130. Italy is plus 105. USA is minus 800. Canada is plus 500. Dominican Republic is minus 750. And Korea is plus 500 there.
Well, so the U.S. is the biggest favorite in the quarterfinals. I'm a little surprised that Italy is not favored over Venezuela. Again, that is
Puerto Rico. They're playing Puerto Rico.
That Italy's not favored over Puerto Rico. Excuse me.
There was another issue again about insurance, and that's one thing. Is Jose Barrios, the Team Puerto Rico, tried to bring him in, and he couldn't get insurance. This needs to be something that is figured out before the Olympics, because you cannot run into these problems and these issues again, where countries can't get their MLB talent cleared in order to participate in what this is supposed to be. And Puerto Rico was running into this problem the entire pre-tournament about getting MLB players cleared to participate. And it happened again. And they can't have it happen in these tournaments like this. Like, this should be something that is figured out months and months and months before the start of the tournament, because we all know when it starts, right? So you can't just run into these issues. And this year it feels as though it has happened more and more and more to this Puerto Rican team.
How many times do we have to talk about this? The insurance issue's been around since the beginning of time. It is absolutely accurate that a team can decide that they don't care about the insurance issue and that they can allow a player to play. But the teams don't. They don't want to be exposed, and that's not going to change. So I don't quite understand what you think is going to happen going forward.
But that's the issue with in the Olympics then. Because the Olympics you're not doing preseason stuff. You're in the middle of a season. How many teams are going to want to clear their players through insurance in the middle of a season?
Why do you think it's still being negotiated? Why do you think it hasn't been announced that they're major leaguers in the Olympics?
That's why I'm saying it needs to be cleared. Like the Olympics one needs to be cleared up, right? You have 2 years to figure this entire mess out, but you also had 3 years or 4 years to figure it out this run of the World Baseball Classic. And this is something, the World Baseball Classic is something that Major League Baseball puts together, right? So
yes.
Why wasn't this something that was fully discussed before it happened? Like, hey, we want our stars all in this. But why does it feel like it's only happened more and more to international teams than it did to the American team?
Well, wait a minute. Trout wasn't allowed to play this year because of insurance. So for Team USA, so it does happen. And by the way, to talk about your guy, your shortstop for the Mets, Lindor. It's not like the guy's the picture of health.
Yeah, but he wasn't going to play in it anyway because he got hurt. So it was just it was a moot point because he did get hurt.
Correa, you know him.
Okay.
The Astro? 2 hurt. Like, there's no reason for Jim Crane to take that risk. They're never going to do it. And believe me, I'd like to come out against Jim Crane for this and blame them. But this came up when the WBC was developed. When the Olympics, when you allow pros to play in the Olympics, I don't know if you remember this, but the dream team of 92, that's back. You were too young, but that's the NBA. That's Magic and Bird and Patrick Ewing and the one college player, Christian Laettner. That's the true dream team of all time, period, hard stop. There were huge debates about letting these players like that play in the Olympics and what it would do to their performance the following season because it's during the off season, and is it too much, too tiring, et cetera, et cetera. If it were during the season, I do not imagine that you would have had Larry Bird, who was already hurt, his back hurt. He barely played in that dream team, as you may recall. He's basically had to lie down on the ground.
I was 2.
You don't recall? You were 2? Sorry, man. That was a hell of a team. Hell of a team. But in any case, that's never going to go away. It's the concept of protecting your assets. And the way I'd like you to think of it is that you have this, you're going to laugh at me, but please don't. You have equipment that you use for nothing personal. How would you feel if that equipment was used 24 hours a day by other people once you were done with the show, that they would come into your apartment, use your equipment to do a show, and then hand it off to the next guy? How would you feel the next morning? What would you have to do our show? You'd have to clean it. You'd be upset about people touching your stuff, things being out of order. And that's...
Yeah, but if I permitted somebody to use the equipment, then it's on me if the thing breaks. I have nobody to blame but myself.
Exactly, which is why you're not going to allow it.
Why? Yeah, but I believe that's the difference between you and I. If we were both team owners, is that I would allow it because it's somebody representing their country, or in this case, it's somebody needing something for work. And I just think that is the big difference between us. Is that
I did allow it. I had players playing the WBC all the time, but it doesn't mean that I wanted it to. Number one, it doesn't mean that I didn't worry about it every single time. Number two, of course I did. So
yeah, because there are a ton of Marlins prospects who are playing in the WBC.
They're playing great. Did you see Marxie play for Italy? And Otto Lopez for Canada has been just crushing. It's fun. I mean, I want our players to do well. If I've got young players and I'm trying to build a reputation, if I'm Bruce Sherman right now or Peter Bendix of the Marlins, I'm so happy because we're just coming out of this looking great. Our ballpark.
So then why would you? But then why would you guess that Tarik Skubal would pitch again? Like if this is your feel, for the situation, because this is your feel for it, why would you ever think that Skubal would pitch? Going into a contract year and Boris, and Boris
That's why.
being his agent. You know, I that to me was like, I didn't think from your wait to see that you weighed it correctly, because I didn't think that there was
Well,
a
I got
way
it
to be
wrong.
like, yeah,
I thought I'll answer it for you, Coke, because I know exactly what I was thinking. He's going to overrule Boris. He feels such pressure and excitement to play for the USA. He knows that he can play another game and win it and win the gold, win the cup, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I totally underestimated. I don't know why I did that. There was no way Boris was going to let him play. By the way, I'm looking at a signed poster from the franchise in my background, and we did a memorabilia Monday. Did you release the Giancarlo Stanton signed memorabilia Monday ball that you're aware of?
yeah, I believe that was.
Recorded
I
that.
believe
Did we
that was
release
on
it?
Monday. I believe that was on Monday.
I'm looking at Giancarlo Stanton's signature on this poster. There's no 27 in the G. It's a mass signed poster. I mean, mass. He signed about 20 for me. But anyway, I'm just smiling. Sorry. What were we talking about?
The Oscars. We'll finish with the Oscars.
Are you going to watch?
I feel like I'm going to have to watch.
I think you should. They're going to perform. The guy's going to perform from Sinners, that amazing song that's nominated. K-pop, your niece and nephew's favorite song, is going to be performed.
Yeah,
Golden.
K-pop Demon Hunters.
That's the lock. I said during the show recently that Jessie Buckley was the lock for Best Actress.
Yeah.
Biggest lock ever. There's actually a bigger lock than she is. K-pop Demon Hunters is going to win Best Animated Feature. It's
I mean, as it should. The movie is terrific. I still can't get over the way in which the Oscars operates, because you had said it yourself that Paul Thomas Anderson, that this is going to be a lifetime achievement award as much as it is going to just be an award. Like, why should that be a thing? Like, I just don't like that, because then you're taking away from other people, because Sinners has the most nominations of all time. It has 16 nominations, which is the most ever. So if you have a movie that is nominated for the most ever, how does the director of said movie, who got all those nominations because of his movie, not deserve, the Best Director award for getting his movie nominated 16 times?
Well,
that
he got
to me just
nominated
doesn't make
for it.
sense. Yeah, but
You're
nominated. You've already said nominated isn't winning. That's what you told me before the Duckies. So if I came home without a Ducky, I don't even know. I don't even know if I'd be on the show right now.
No, you would. I just would call you a award nominee.
Ugh.
Instead of, remember they have that in movies when they preview movies, Oscar Academy Award nominee starring. They'll do that, or Academy Award winning. But when you win a Golden Globe, they'll say Golden Globe winner if you've never been nominated for an Oscar. But if you win a Golden Globe and get nominated for an Oscar and lose, you're still promoted as an Academy Award nominee. You're not as a Golden Globe winner. So the Academy Awards are the top. The nomination matters, but Paul Thomas Anderson, he directed a great film in one bad after another. That's why it's going to win Best Editing. I mean, it's a tough film to have directed and put together the way he did. That's why I think he wins.
All right, so we have 1 minute left. 1 minute left. DraftKings has 2 props for you, so I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Go.
They have one battle after another. Total Oscar wins. Over 5.5 is minus 250. Under 5.5 is plus 175. They have 13 nominations.
They're going to win 6.
Okay. Sinners total Oscar wins. They have under 4.5 at minus 135. Over 4.5 at plus 100. They have 16 nominations.
Over. I think they're going to win 5.
Okay. Well,
I've got one battle at 6. I've got Sinners at 5. Those are great markets. Who's doing those markets at DraftKings? Those are
10 seconds.
Those are unbelievable markets.
They're playing you off. The music has started. They need you off stage.
Thanks for the week. Thanks for yesterday again. We'll be back Monday. We will talk Oscars. Make sure you are watching the Oscars, watching Dan Le Batard and his show. It's just business, Coca. Thank you again for yesterday. Be safe, everyone. This is nothing personal. Bye.